Hello and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to wrap up this week's exploration of just some music, no overarching theme for this week, with an artist called Pogarda. We're going to be looking at the track Lament, and the only things I know about this is that the song is from an album that came out last year, and that this track saw a bit of popularity on Polish social media due to its use in short-form content. Now, I don't know how popular it became, as I am told it is black metal adjacent, but it's still really interesting that it seems quite a few people discovered this band, or at least this song, through short-form content. Let's dive in and see what they're bringing to the table today. Nice little moody 3/4 beginning here. I mean, Lament is a good title for this opening. We'll see where it goes from here. But I feel that immediately in this nice opening. Really light drumming. The cymbals are more prominent than the ghost notes on the snare and even the de-emphasized bass kicks. The cymbal work's getting fancy. We had a cymbal choke right at the end of the last phrase, and then this phrase started with a nice little like 3 or 4 hit quicker idea. So it's 3. Our first expansion on this guitar line. It's a good one. dude, the drumming there was bonkers. So what's pretty cool here is we sort of just have a two riff track. The opening riff gets us about 2.5 minutes into the track. Then we get a variation on that using the same key notes, but putting more movement between when we change notes, basically speeding it up a little bit. That takes us to like 3.5. And then from there, we have our final riff that we have in the penultimate section, and then that last crazy bonkers moment of the track. And even that feels like it's using the same key notes as our opening riff, just in a very different context and a very different focus. Rather than looking at a larger 4-bar idea, we're looking at a shorter 2-bar idea. So we're compressing this larger idea down, and then even driving the intensity further as it kind of focuses more on a chordal movement of these keynotes rather than a melodic movement of these keynotes. Taking the same emotional resonance that we originally saw and compressing it down and amplifying it and distorting it, putting a bit of intensity, sure, but I'd also say a little bit of anger onto this melancholic idea. It's really interesting to see how much mileage they get out of basically one idea, one guitar lick. They really stretch it as far as they can go, and I mean, create a five minutes of music on it. I will say that the opening I felt was a little drawn out. I thought that they kind of reached their peak before the drum part came in, and when the drums came in and we just revisited the guitar part once again, I felt that it was definitely a bit long. But when we saw some variation on that, when the vocals came in, I thought that was a nice adaptation of it. Regardless, though, they still pulled 5 minutes of music out of, like I said, really just one foundational idea in the guitar. And I am a huge fan of efficient writing like that. It ties everything together, and it allows the song to develop and evolve. I mean, that's fantastic. I'm really happy to see that. And I kind of touched on the emotionality of this too, right off the start. I mean, this is a song that embodies the feeling of lament, of mourning, of grieving. It is a song that kicks off melancholically. And for a solid 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes, we are in that mode, in that atmosphere. Between the two guitars, it's kind of difficult not to feel that sadness, that sorrow that they're trying to go for. I feel that it deviates from that a little bit once we bring in the distorted guitars and the heavier drum work around like minute 2.5 or so. It's still there, but it's in the distance. And I think part of that is because these clean electric guitars that are playing the opening riff are still present when we get into a more blackened idea, but they're in the background. They're a bit quieter than the foreground guitars, the drum work, the screaming that's going on. And I kind of enjoy this. Not, well, actually, from a sonic perspective, it's fine too. I didn't dislike it as much as I was thinking coming into this, knowing it was black metal. But I think thematically it works really well because, granted, this song is called Lament, but I still want to view this from a larger concept of the grieving process, and this idea of sorrow kind of being ever present, but also contending with other emotions like anger. That's kind of how I view this track, is that the sorrow, the sadness is always there in every part of this track. It is a component of the harmony. It isn't always what's in the spotlight. we start off with it as pretty much the only thing happening, but as the song continues, it gets angrier and more aggressive, more intense. That sadness is present, but kind of pushed away, pushed aside, pushed down, covered up by something else. And I enjoy that narrative coming from like a thematic perspective. I think it's pretty cool to see that. And that is ultimately what this song ends up feeling to me. It is the grieving process. It is the sadness. It is the anger. It's the intensity of grief in general. It's the escalation of it. It's some days feeling heavier than others. Maybe the lyrics are going to go in a different direction, and maybe their intentions aren't necessarily aligning with my read of it, but that's what I got out of the musical side of things. Now the song kicks off with more of a melodic focus. We have the two guitar parts setting the atmosphere. After that, we bring in some chords on some distorted guitars and some lighter drum work. I really liked this idea here where the bass kick is kind of muted. We have ghost notes on the snare as well, so they're a bit quieter. We do have a couple of nice hard attacks on the snare to create these cracks against the silence, to remind us that there is something larger here, but we are suppressing that sound. But the cymbals here are dominant. It's not often for black metal to focus so heavily on cymbals, particularly in the production and mixing. So I like that here. We also see some nice little cymbal technique ideas going on here with the cymbal choke at the end of the first phrase, and the second phrase using more of these 16th note cymbal ideas to get these pockets of 3 notes in a couple of places. You can feel the intensity starting to ramp up through the drum work. And while I don't think it was a gradual ramp that made the Blackened ending feel like a natural movement, it does introduce this concept of more complexity and more sounds, more intensity, stuff like that. But we do make a rather large jump into the final minute and a half or so, which is just bonkers. I mean, the guitar work actually simplifies here. We just have, I think it's 3 chords, maybe 4 chords, and some faster playing. The drum work, though, what's going on here, dude? I would love to see this live. I'd love to see sheet music for it. It makes no sense to me. I'll tell you that. I can feel the 4/4 pulse. I can feel the phrasing. I can feel where 1 is. It's not like I'm lost while listening to it. But it just feels chaotic. When I feel the phrase resetting, normally where I would feel like beat 1 is occurring, whether that's beat 1 of a bar or beat 1 of a 2-bar phrase or a 4-bar phrase, whatever kind of chopping up of movement I'm hearing, wherever I feel like there's a reset in the pattern, very rarely does it fall on a beat 1. I find this to be really interesting because the phrasing of the drums aren't matching the phrasing of the guitars, which are very clearly locked into these 2-bar patterns. The drums can work with like 7-beat phrases, 9-beat phrases. Sometimes I think they even lengthen out to 11-beat phrases or 10-beat phrases. I don't know. It feels random to me. The guitars allow me to have that home, that pulse that I can lock into. Oh, we're on the 3rd chord of this. I know where we are. Oh, this is the home chord. We're back to the beginning of the phrase. They're giving me my landmarks. The drums aren't. And I can't even listen to, like, in gent, in progressive metal that's very rhythmic, you can find polymeter on all parts of the song, but usually there's an instrument. Maybe you still have snare on 2 and 4. Maybe you have quarter notes on a hi-hat or a ride cymbal. There is some part of the song, usually in the drum kit, that's giving you the core pulse despite the jagged rhythms. I don't get any of that landmarking here. There is no part of the drum kit that tells me where I'm at in the phrase. And beyond that, it doesn't feel like it's a simple 2 or 4 bar phrase either. This thing feels like it is a larger, maybe 16, maybe even depending on the tempo, because I don't know if I'm feeling it at halftime of how they're writing it, but even maybe a 32 bar phrase of linearity. There just isn't any point in the drums where I feel like I feel confident in saying, okay, this is certainly the end of a phrase, and now we're going to be repeating these X bars, 16 bars or whatever. It just feels like this linear, chaotic exploration without landmarking, without a focus on temporal uh, temporal rigidity. It is constant 16th notes. That is easy to follow along with, but where the accents lie, where it feels like we've started over and have cycled back to the beginning of an idea, that's not consistent at all to my ears. And it actually caused me to second guess my understanding of the time signature multiple times because they don't adhere to an 8-beat phrase like the guitars do. It's a really interesting, intricate, complex drum part, and I have no idea how they remember it to play it live. Maybe there is some smaller groupings that I'm just not seeing, the patterns I'm not seeing on a first time, but it just feels like trying to memorize 32 bars where every bar has 16 different hits in it. That is a lot of notes to memorize for, a 40-second phrase or something. And then to play it all perfectly, moving all over the kit. It was just crazy, man. That's what I'm trying to say here. I had such a tough time grasping what was going on there. But I really love the feeling of that too, the whirlwind, the flurry, and the fury of it. It is intense, it is angry, it's also easy to get lost within, which in the concept of grief, I think that lines up really easily with the rest of the ideas that they've presented on here thematically. Let me dive into some lyrics on this, see what's going on there. And I can't find any. And Genius doesn't have the band at all. Sonic Hits does, but does not have lyrics for it. Metal Archives has the band, but no lyrics, which is, if they don't, then usually nobody does. But I found their Bandcamp page. I even found the Bandcamp page of their record label. Neither entries for their album have lyrics for them. So I guess we're just going to have to leave it at that. I think my thematic analysis of this track is probably pretty close to their intentions, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. Maybe someone will be able to find some lyrics or email them and ask them for some lyrics or something. And I'd love to, even if it's just a pinned comment, do a little bit of lyrical analysis if I think it warrants it. But we're just going to wrap up the video here then. These are my thoughts on Pogarda's Lament. What did you think of this track? Is there anything that stood out to you? Anything that you'd like to add on to what I said or correct me on if I misspoke about something? Do you have your own take, perspective, or opinion on this track? Let me know. Put all of that and whatever else you'd like to add into the comment section below. Above that, in the description box, you'll find a link to Linktree. It takes you here. You can find links to my music, ways to support the channel, a link to the Discord server, and so much more. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all 3 of those. That wraps it up for today. I'll be back tomorrow, though, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 p.m. UTC as usual. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you choose to watch my videos.